Welcome to the We Get Outdoors podcast. My name is Rob Yates. I am your host, and welcome to this epic episode. Today we get to meet co-founder of We Wander the Wild, Jennifer Morris. Jennifer is an ambitious business owner who found herself stuck in the offices, the steel and the concrete of the city, and wanted to begin exploring more and more. This led to her and her partner Wes exploring Canada, Ontario specifically, and building one of the most beautiful Instagram accounts I have ever seen. In their Instagram account and their blog on their website, they document their adventures throughout Toronto, Ontario, and Canada more widely. Today we get to know why We Wander the Wild happened, what it is they want to achieve with it, their tips for getting out in the outdoors, how to take amazing Instagram-worthy images, their favourite destinations in Canada and further afield, what their bucket list is for their future, and Jen has a great 60-second rant. If you want to wander the wild more and you want to find out what's out there in Canada for you to go and explore, this is arguably the episode for you. So sit back and let's jump in. This episode is brought to you by the We Get Outdoors tribe, where your next adventure is just one click away. You can join this, the fastest growing outdoor group on planet Earth, and become part of a tribe of like-minded outdoor enthusiasts, sharing your adventures, their adventures, trips and insights, and helping to ensure you plan and have the most perfect adventures. Click on the link in the description below to join for free right now. So on the We Get Outdoors podcast today, we have Jenn Morris, who with her partner Wes runs the awesome blog and Instagram page, We Wander the Wild. Jenn, welcome to the We Get Outdoors podcast.
Oh, thank you so much.
So
very excited.
You, correct me if I'm wrong, but you wander around with Wes exploring the wildness of Ontario. Where did your passion for the outdoors and stuff all come from?
So when I was a kid, my family did not have very much money, and I did grow up here in Ontario, in Niagara Falls, actually, so near one of the 7 wonders of the world. And my family, so when we went on vacation, we would go camping because that's what we could afford. So we regularly would rent a little tin boat with a little outboard motor and go on to a place called the French River, which is now an Ontario provincial park, but at the time I think it was a little less looked after, if you will. And we'd just go and find a little spot in the middle of nowhere, and we'd camp on a beach for a week with me and my mom and my stepdad, and sometimes my stepsister, and sometimes some of my parents' friends would come. So, and we'd been doing that, like there's pictures of me when I was like 3 or 4 maybe. We started doing that. And so we did that all the way through until I was maybe 15. And then when I was about 16, I took my first overseas trip. And I kind of forgot about the outdoors for a little while. I went to university. I camped a little bit in university because I was poor again. And then I started traveling overseas when I got a full-time job because I still had that travel bug. And I did do a lot of outdoorsy things when I was traveling, but I didn't go camping nearly as often or hiking as much as I used to. So, and then I started my own business, and again, had no money. So went back to the easiness and economical option of camping and hiking and biking to get outside and experience things. And the way that kind of Wes and we ended up meeting because we both work in the same co-working space because we both own our own businesses. And then we started hanging out, going to do hiking and biking and things like that too. So
that's super cool. And other than money, what is it that draws you back to Toronto? Because most people, when they think about the outdoors, have this massive bucket list of like, oh, I want to go. Well, for me, it might be Niagara Falls because I'm not from where you are. But Like, I want to go
Yeah,
to
well,
Africa or the K2 or the Himalayas. What is it about Ontario and Toronto that draws you there?
on Canada in general, Ontario, Canada, we do a lot of travel out west as well to BC. We try and go out there at least once a year. But Ontario itself has got quite a diverse landscape. We have what's called the Canadian Shield, which is like this really beautiful rocky portion of the province. So once you get up to a certain northern peak or northern spot, the landscape changes from like fields and trees and stuff to a lot of like evergreen trees with like growing out of rocks, essentially, granite, things like that. So it can be quite interesting to see that and to experience those kinds of things. We also have the Great Lakes here, which are the largest freshwater lakes in the world. And a couple of years ago, we went up to Lake Superior, and Lake Superior is unbelievably large. It's the deepest lake in the world, I believe. And it is freezing in the middle of summer. So we took a quick dip when we were there, but it was very quick. Like, we're Northerners, but it was a bit much. But yeah, like there's just so much to see here. And I would imagine that about most places. I think, like, even when I have traveled to other places to go and see them, like, there really is, like, you could go to another country and never see everything in the outdoors that they probably have to offer. And that's kind of how I feel about Canada. Like, I have a bucket list of places in Canada I want to go to, regardless of the fact that I've been to every province in Canada. It's just an interesting country. It's also very large, let's be honest. Like, Canada's huge.
Ginormous, yeah.
It's quite big, so there is also that portion. But a lot of people, when they think of Canada, they either think of BC or Toronto, the city itself, maybe Montreal. But I think sometimes people kind of bypass over Ontario for the outdoors side of things unless they're from here. And I'm probably getting a lot of people mad from the province by saying you should come and see it by adding a bunch of more people. But it really is quite beautiful, and there's some amazing, like, in the fall, it's the colors that you can possibly see here are like nothing I've ever seen before. So that's kind of
incredible. You mentioned bucket list just then. Tell me what is on that bucket list for Canada.
Oh, a road trip from Vancouver to the Yukon is on the list for sure. I would like to do a drive around Newfoundland, like around the coast of Newfoundland. It's supposed to be quite, not in the wintertime. No, right now they've got like 5 feet of snow right now, and I'm not down for that. So, and then also like going up to Churchill to go see the polar bears. There's also this really crazy frozen hare competition. I think it's in Whitehorse. I can't remember for sure, but it is in one of the Northern Territories. And essentially it's like these hot springs that you go to, and you put your hair in the water, and it freezes so quickly that you can make really crazy hairstyles with it. So great. It's pretty funny if you look it up, actually. But yeah, there's just a lot of, and then also like, I do really would like to try snowboarding. I ski, not well. Wes is a much better skier than I am. But like, I can make it down a mountain without dying. So maybe I can try snowboarding next. That's also on my list.
Wow, that's quite a list. Do you have a bucket list outside of South Africa or places you want to go to?
Yeah.
Sorry, I said South Africa. There's a Freudian slip
South
there.
Africa is actually on that list.
Well, there we go. So South Africa's on the list, but outside of Canada.
You and I have mentioned it a couple times chatting that like I would love to do a safari. I think that would be unbelievable. And I have been to some pretty interesting, like I've been to Australia before, and they have some amazing places to see, although a lot of their animals and spiders and things are pretty scary to me. but and then I always do love going back to France, and the Alps is one of my favorite places. So I don't know if you'd call that part of my bucket list, but I would like to go back again. Yeah. In all honesty, if somebody offered me a trip to go somewhere and see some really cool places outdoors, I don't think I would say no, regardless of where it was. That's probably the easiest way. It might be better for me to make a list of places that I don't care to see, and I'm like, I don't know where those places are.
Yeah. I think sometimes a list of what you don't want to do is better than the things that you do want to do, because that, like, you probably have quite a small list of don't want to do, and then that leaves leaves the door wide open for cool experiences.
Exactly. Like I could just then I don't have to like handcuff myself.
That's awesome. So We Wander the Wild, how did that come about? Where did you start? Like, you've got this Instagram account that, by the way, people should go check out your Instagram account because it's got amazing pictures.
Oh, thank you.
But like, how did it come about?
So much. I really appreciate that. So funny. Okay, I would like to preface this that I live in a country where cannabis is legal. So Wes and I were on a hike. We were actually on Bowen Island in BC. And we may have partaken a little bit in that legal option. And we were hiking and having a great time. And Wes was like, we have so many awesome pictures. Like, we should just try and like have an account like that, like we can post them on and like show people how cool places are that we go to. And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then like during that hike, we were like throwing around ideas for names, and it just came from that, like, we were actually wandering in the wild at the time that the name came about. So that's literally how it happened. It was more of like a slightly incapacitated option that happened as we were trying to find our way up a mountain. Like, you're welcome. Like, I don't know. It's just, there it is.
That's cool. Okay, I've heard of all sorts of things. I had somebody I was speaking to, they had been on some ayahuasca, I think it is, retreat.
Yeah. I've heard of those as well. That's another way of like opening your mind, I guess.
I think open your mind would be a minor way of describing the experience he was telling me about.
Ayahuasca,
like,
yeah.
Ayahuasca.
I've heard it's pretty intense.
Yeah, basically you were just off your face for the entire time. He's like, yeah, that was pretty much it. Oh, crikey.
Yeah, we were like pretty coherent, like for our perspective. Just probably a little bit more open-minded than we normally would be. That's all. Like, it was like as if we were like 3 pints deep, but not that.
So what is it you want to do with We Wander the Wild? Both you and Wes have got proper jobs outside of the outdoors. What is it you want to do with it?
It's more along the lines of, it's an interesting community to be a part of. You see so many different people and ways of like editing photos, and I've learned so much personally. Wes and I both take photos, but I do all of the editing, and so like that's been a journey itself to learn that portion of it. Wes does a lot of the digital marketing, and he put together the website and everything. So we kind of have really complementary skill sets. In reality, it was just kind of like, we want to share these photos with people because these are all places we think are so beautiful and awesome. We'd like people to see them and maybe encourage them to go and see it as well. And the more I'm reading about the statistics of people like not getting outside anymore, and people like essentially society becoming an indoor group or indoor culture, I think it was referred to, that's a bit scary to me, because that means not only are people missing out, but also like being sedentary and inside all the time is not good for your mental health. It's not good for your physical health. So if we even encourage 1 or 2 people to get outside and try something different or try something new, then great. And so like with the website, we had the reason we started the website, we hadn't planned on it, to be honest. But Ontario Parks kind of approached us, and we did a couple of things with them, and they were like, well, if you want to do a trip with us, then we'd need a blog post. So we decided to start the blog. And so we've had a really good relationship with Ontario Parks. We really enjoy working with them. And there's so many parks just in Ontario. I think there's over 200. And even in the wintertime, like 41 of them are open for winter activities, which is so awesome. So it kind of encourages people to get outside even in the winter, where, to be honest, here, you definitely need that encouragement to get out in the wintertime, because if not, you could Netflix for like 5 months straight. It's just, it gets dark at like, at the worst of it, it gets dark at like 4:30, and the sun doesn't come up until after 7:30. So, and then it's cloudy a lot. So it's just like dark, not a lot of sun. It's hard to feel motivated or want to do stuff. So if we can encourage people by showing them beautiful places to visit and how beautiful and ethereal it can be in the wintertime, then great.
What do you think it is that, other than the weather, that traps people inside their houses and stops them going out and having an explore? Is there some things?
I think sometimes there's a misconception too about, like, especially as I'll speak from a woman's perspective. Like, if you're an outdoorsy girl, that means like you shouldn't be wearing makeup on the trail, or you shouldn't be, if you like to go shopping and get your nails done and get your hair done, that doesn't mean that you wouldn't enjoy the outdoors. And I think that that's kind of ridiculous, to be completely honest. Like, I like to get my hair done and my nails done, and but I love being outside. I love going in the outdoors and trying new things. And so I think that that's probably one of the things about that categorization of people. And probably maybe the same thing can happen with men too. Like, oh, like you're a guy that works on Bay Street. What do you mean you're going like camping for the weekend? That's crazy. You should be in a 5-star hotel. I can just kind of imagine what that would be like. And then the other thing I think potentially is expense. As I said, like, yes, it is more inexpensive to go camping regularly than it is to stay in hotels or whatever your option is. But that immediate first upfront cost can be quite pricey if you don't have options. So buying a tent and having a car and all of these things that you're going to need while you're camping, that can add up quite quickly. So I think that could be quite intimidating for people. So introducing people to inexpensive options, or educating them on maybe what they should spend additional money on, I think is important as well. And even introducing people to potential rental options, because that is an option as well. So like, if you're not sure you're going to like camping, like, you can go to this company and like rent a tent if you want to. You don't have to go out and buy it. So I think sometimes it's a bit of the fact that people aren't educated about it enough to know or try. And the outdoors can be a bit scary for some people. Like, I think some outdoor companies can make outdoors seem a bit intimidating, especially, again, from a woman's perspective. I was with a friend of mine who wanted to go fishing, and she had her fishing license, and she wanted to go and buy a fishing rod. And we went to a company here in Ontario. And when we walked into the fishing area, every single photo on the wall was of a young white man. Every single photo. And I said to the guy behind the counter, I'm like, do you know how intimidating it is to walk into this area of the store? Well, in the store in general, but into this area of the store. I'm like, and not feel stupid for asking potentially dumb questions. Like, to stand there and stare at a fishing rod and be like, I'd like to use one of these, but I don't know which one I'm supposed to buy. And I don't really want to ask because I don't want to feel stupid about it. So I said, like, maybe having a woman working in this section, or having a woman on one of the pictures, or a person of color, any of those options would maybe make it feel a bit more inclusive. And he looked at me, and he was a white dude, and he looked at me, he's like, I never even noticed that before. And I'm like, well, why would you? You're a white dude. Like, you don't look up and see that you're missing from that picture. So I think that sometimes there's a lot of barriers that people don't really talk about when it comes to the outdoors.
There's a big thing.
Sorry to get super deep there.
No. It's very, very interesting. There's a big thing in quite a lot of North America, but certainly the United States at this point in time, that if you want to go out on the water, go canoeing, kayaking, sailing, whatever it might be, you have to have a dry suit. And like I've kayaked professionally, and I only owned a dry suit over the age of 20, I think, and I'd kayaked for 12 years by then, all year round. And it just puts people off because people see that the media says you need a dry suit, and then suddenly you see $1,000 as if you haven't even gone kayaking yet, and you see $1,000.
Yeah.
And when you go through like magazines, hiking magazines, websites, or not yours but other ones, you look at what people are wearing, and if you were to say, I want to go do this, and then you go to a mountain equipment co-op or any other big outdoor shop, and you start pricing up the Gore-Tex jacket, the rucksack, the boots, the whatever else.
The things just, it adds up so, like, you just want to go for a hike and all of a sudden you spend $1,200 and you're like, what happened? And I think that's why I think sometimes I enjoy being able to educate people. We have people ask us questions from time to time. And for like minor things all the way up to like, oh, you mentioned that you have Keen hiking boots. Like, do you know of a cheaper alternative? And I'm happy to help them price out what they're looking for, because it's more along the lines of like, well, what do you want to do? Are you going to be climbing mountains? Are you going to be trudging through wet areas like wetlands and things like that? No, then you can probably get away with wearing running shoes in reality. So do you have running shoes? Yes, then you're fine. Use those. And then if you find that you start hiking more in difficult places or whatever the case might be, then you can look at investing. And I think that that's more of I think sometimes people are so caught up in trying to sell these people things rather than educate them, that they end up then putting these poor people off, and then they're not going to end up in the outdoors. They're going to end up at a gym at best.
Or with another Hulu or Netflix account.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
What are your bits of kit that you never leave home without?
Well, I love my Keen hiking boots. Honestly, they're the one thing that for sure I would never go anywhere where I was going to be hiking without, or in the outdoors in general. And actually, I kind of made a mistake this past trip going to BC. And it's a bit of a love story to my Keens. So I only brought essentially like city boots, and then my Keens, and I totally blanked on bringing actual winter boots. Go figure. I live in Canada, like they should be on my feet all the time. So we get there and I'm like, okay, it's fine. We're in the city. I didn't even notice for a while. And then we get out to where we're going skiing, like we're on Vancouver Island, and going skiing, didn't even think about it. And then the next day I went snowshoeing while Wes went skiing, and I was like, oh my God, I don't have boots. And I'm like, okay, well, Keens it is. Like they're waterproof. Like maybe I'll get a bit cold, but I'm sure I'll be fine. Those things kept my feet so dry. I was stunned when I got back to the car. I'm like, my feet are warm. And it was like, I was wearing Darn Tough socks and Keens, and those two together, that it's like the dream team of footwear, I think. So there you go. Those things for sure. I also have a Leatherman that I like to have on me most of the time. I try to remember not to bring it on planes and stuff. Don't do that. Make sure you put it in your the thing that's going to be packed under the plane. And then also like little things, like I always have Band-Aids on me, just in case, although my Keens have never given me any issues, but sometimes I just get like some spots where it would be helpful. Always have polysporin, like all of the things where like if I get injured, I'm pretty klutzy. So like Wes is pretty good at hiking in front of me and knowing what it sounds like when I actually hit the ground versus me like just tripping on something. So yeah, like it's a significant difference in sound. But And then we both have hydro flasks. So really, and we've also learned some tips too on our own by making mistakes of our own. When we actually, the day that we came up with We Wander, we were, like I said, on Bowen Island. We were hiking a thing called Mount Gardner. And it's actually a really long hike, surprisingly longer than we thought because it's not well marked. So we got lost a lot. And we brought one bottle, one hydro flask with us and 2 granola bars, and that was all. So don't do that either. Everybody have their own water bottle and make sure you bring at least 4 granola bars on a day hike, so just in case. So, but I think in reality, each time that we go somewhere, there's a little bit of a different list of like things that we make sure that we bring. But for me, it's definitely my Keens and my Darn Tough socks, and then like some little bits and pieces of like first aid items. Water.
I'm assuming a camera, but are you a iPhone,
yes.
Samsung Galaxy person, or do you have a fancy DSLR?
I do have a DSLR with several lenses actually, and yes, typically I do bring it on hikes and things like that. But I have an iPhone X10s that I actually recently just got, and I use that a lot. And Wes has an iPhone 8 that he uses. So between that, so like for example, the day that we were skiing, obviously we didn't bring a camera, we just had our iPhones. So that's where most of those photos come from. And yeah, like it's just sometimes the camera can be cumbersome. And I also highly recommend most of the time that usually what I'll do is for the first half to like, because usually when you're doing a hike, there's always like a lookout point, almost always. Usually the first half of the hike, I'll keep the camera out and be taking photos and things like that. Second half of the hike, I force myself to put it back in the backpack. And only either take it out or use my iPhone if something really spectacular needs to happen. It helps me be in the moment and more present sometimes, because I think occasionally we can get distracted and by taking so many photos that I'm not actually maybe enjoying the hike as much as I could if I wasn't paying attention to the good shots and things like that.
So people should go and check out your We Wander the Wild Instagram page and go and follow it. That's a big recommendation from me because I love it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Oh, no worries. It's true though. How do they go about replicating the images or getting their own images like you produce on there? What are the top tips for somebody who's got a camera and an iPhone but isn't quite getting the images yet?
I think practice is huge. And in reality, you need to have some sort of editing option. Lightroom is an excellent and fairly affordable option. It gives you a lot of options. I also suggest familiarizing yourself with the ins and outs of every part of your phone and or camera. Things like white balance, those are all very important items to at least understand how they work, so that if you find that you're not getting the photo, you can kind of use trial and error. Take your camera off autofocus sometimes. It'll help you really get maybe the photo that what I find is a lot of people ask me, they're like, how do you get the photo you see in your head? And I'm like, you have to put your camera as manual as possible, really. Because the more automated that your camera is, the less control you have over getting that vision that you see in your head. So, and also I try and tell people, like, look, what you see with your eyes is never going to be like, that's always going to be the best picture, what you actually see yourself. You can try and replicate it as much as possible, but enjoy that time as well to what you're seeing, and then do your best to get the best capture of it, but recognize that it's never going to look the way that you see it with your eyes. It's just not possible. I think that I find a lot of people kind of beat themselves up a little bit, being like, oh, I'm not a good photographer because I can't get it to the way that it looks in real life. And I'm like, well, it's nearly impossible for that. And use it, be creative, maybe give it a little bit of a tint or whatever you want to do with that photo. Like, there's nothing stopping people from being like, oh, like, I like this photo with a little bit more yellow in it. That's great. Whatever you like, that's what matters.
It's
so like when
picture.
I post those photos, like when I post those photos, it's because I like them. Like a lot of people, like, especially on Instagram, it's a little crazy out there. like people are like, oh, my feed needs to match, and I'm like, I tried that for a while and I was like, I can't do it. Like there's themes, obviously, like it's going to be like winter for a while, so like most of our photos are going to be like with snow and things like that, but yeah, like I couldn't be like, oh, like all the tones have to be exactly the same. Like it's just crazy and silly, and then it gets boring as well. So I think that the best advice I can give people is make sure that you're still enjoying doing photography. If you're not enjoying it, then you're definitely doing it wrong.
And are you a shoot lots of images and then spend hours going through them afterwards person, or do you prefer to shoot less and then have less at home to do?
No, I like to have a lot of options, because again, I don't want to spend a ton of my time out in the field being concerned over which photo is which and deleting at the time and all that kind of stuff. So like when we go on a hike, like one hike, I might take 200 photos. And then when we get back, I'll like upload them and then sift through them later. And then plus sometimes too, like when you look at things with a fresh eye later on, you might see something in a photo that you didn't see before that will make a really great photo. Like a lot of the times too, I say look at different perspectives within that photo. So like if you've got a photo, like a landscape photo, there's nothing stopping you from taking only a part of that and turning it into a portrait photo. It might look better, or vice versa, right? So I think that really like just not, how do I put this? Not like playing by the rules, if you will, of like what's already there. Kind of look for the photo in the photo if you want.
Look for the photo.
But yeah, definitely give myself a lot of options. Wes is always like, oh my God, how many photos have you taken? He's like, we're running out of drive space again. And I'm like, oh, sorry.
That's the tech guy's problem, I guess, making more terabytes.
Usually, like Wes is like my in-house tech person. I'm like, well, I don't know, just fix it. Get us some more space. I don't know. What is it? What do I need to do? He's like, erase some, and I'm like, oh, that's not an option. There are some discussions over that sometimes. Yeah.
Where should people start? Because I mean, I've got a Canon DSLR, and I have to be honest with you that I put it on all into manual, and you've got white balance, aperture, film speeds, even though there's not a film. Like where's the best place for people to start fiddling with these different manual settings? Because it can be quite overwhelming.
Yeah. So this is really funny. Actually, what I suggest people do is like pick a spot in your house that's got decent lighting, like whether it be a lamp or whatever, and take a thing that has a lot of black and white on it, and take multiple different photos of that particular item, messing around with all of the options. So like try out the different white balance settings. Like there's usually like sometimes anywhere from like 2 to 5 different settings, maybe. I think mine has 6. So when I first got my camera, because each camera is different, I tried out every white balance setting to see what that looks like on an item in my kitchen that was black and white. And it gave me a good idea of understanding, okay, well, like if I want this kind of look, this is the setting that I should be using, kind of thing. And then same with the little dial on the top. Like there's a lot of different like auto settings, which I'm not saying never use the auto settings, because sometimes they're really helpful. Like I have a sports setting, for example, where, not that I photograph sports ever. I don't know, yay sports, I guess. But I use it if we're driving and maybe we can't slow down, and it takes repetitious photos over and over again on an automated setting. So then sometimes we get something out of that. It's more of like trial and error. Spending time with your camera is very important, and getting to know it and understanding how it works. Like I have a Nikon, but it's similar to a Canon. It's got a lot of the same settings and stuff. And then when it comes to lenses, if you're looking for a one lens option, I would get like one that does wide angle and zoom. So you can get some that are like, I forget what mine is, to be honest. I think it's 28 to 200 is the one that I probably use the most. So you can get like a pretty wide angle option and a zoom with only having to carry around one lens. And then I also have like a wide angle lens that's fixed that I also enjoy using a lot as well. And then on top of it, there's a ton of tutorials online. Like actually before I was talking to you today, I was watching a tutorial on how to edit snow in Lightroom, because editing snow is the worst thing I've ever had to do. It's so difficult. And after a while, you're like, I don't even know what white looks like anymore. Like, I don't know. Like, who knows? Like, is it too blue? Is it too gray? Is it too yellow? I don't know. I don't. And then you get to the point where you're like, I don't care, whatever. It's going to be blue today. I don't know. So, like it's something like I continue my learning all the time, and tutorials are such a great option. There's some good ones out there. There's also some really crappy ones. So if you're halfway through one and you're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, then move on to the next. You don't have to chain yourself to somebody's tutorial just because you started.
Well, if in doubt, YouTube has the answer as well. I've just renovated. I've just renovated the kitchen in my house. I've got a 100-year-old house had a very old kitchen in that I pulled out and put a new kitchen in, and I made the whole thing, including the cupboards, everything from just sheets of wood, completely on my own. And it was very much like, how do you make a kitchen unit? YouTube it, watch the YouTube video twice, watch another one twice, 100%. Give it a go. Yeah.
Same idea. Photography is the same. And photography, like, I don't have to worry about whether the cabinet's going to fall off the ceiling either. So it's a lot less risk involved with photography. Like, so like in reality, like if you don't like something that you've done to a photo, you can always go back to the original option and try again. When it comes to editing or taking a photo, like, you can always just take a few photos of the same thing from different angles, from different ways. And also the other thing that I recommend too is change your stature. Like, crouch down or get up on a rock. You just don't know what that slight difference in view is going to give you.
That's very, very cool. Yeah, because I guess even if you can then take a picture from the same view spot that everybody else takes it from, but if you're lying down, it looks completely different.
Correct. Yeah. And there's like, and especially if there's people in your photo, like that changes the perspective of where they are too. So yeah, I always recommend adjusting like your quote unquote height.
Cool. And have you been on courses to learn all this, or is it all YouTube and books and self-taught? Or?
To be honest, I took photography way back in high school and a little bit in university. That was really long time ago. And then since then, it's just kind of been like tutorials, YouTube, talking to other photographers. Also, if you see somebody and you like their stuff online and you like maybe the photo that they've taken, ask them, what settings did you use on this? How did you get this? How did you capture this? Almost all of them are more than willing to share with you that information. Maybe not like some of the National Geographic ones because they get a lot of people, but there's a handful that I interact with on a regular basis, and we trade information all the time. Like there's a guy out there that we follow that he does a lot of like wildlife photos, and I'm always asking him, and he does a lot of like sky photos as well, which is something I still haven't figured out. I've been trying for the longest time, but it's not in my wheelhouse apparently. But I've been asking him a lot, being like, oh, like what kind of settings did you use to get this? What did you use? Like what kind of tripod? Because mine's garbage. What should I get? You know? So it's always that kind of having conversations with other people. And then also when it comes to like accessories for your camera, like it's fine to try, like, look, I've got the cheapest tripod. It's like, and like, I hate it, but it does the job in some situations. So like, don't be afraid of having a cheap option until you can afford the option that you want, so that you can practice, so that when you do get the deposit or the best option, that you really kind of have an idea of what you're going to do with it.
Wow. That's a hell of a lot to take in.
Hopefully that's helpful.
No, I think it is. I think it is helpful. I think that I think everybody wants to have the perfect image straight off the bat, and I think trial and error is often the best way. But I'd encourage people to reach out to you or anybody else who takes amazing photos and take your advice there, and just go and ask people what were the settings when you took this image? Like, how did you do this in Lightroom? Because I
Yeah.
think everybody in the outdoors is often, in my opinion, nicer than everybody who doesn't go in the outdoors. So
Yes, I agree. I agree.
so just go and ask nice people nice questions, and you'll be amazed about what people bring out of the other end. One of the things that jumps out to my mind is people who come from all over North America and Europe and who listen to this, who are curious about going to Canada or Ontario to go walking, canoeing, any of the above.
Yeah.
And all they've heard is bears and wolves.
Okay, so first of all, in Ontario, we only have black bears, which are essentially giant dogs. That's being a bit facetious, but yeah, in Ontario we have black bears. They are quite small compared to what people probably picture when they picture a bear from, especially from areas that don't have bears at all. Most of the larger bears are out on the West Coast, like grizzlies and brown bears. Those ones are total assholes and really large. Black bears are pretty harmless. They're more scared of us. Like, as long as you make noise when you're on the trail, it's a pretty straightforward way of like making sure you don't run into them. The only time that you might have an issue is like if there's cubs around, and then it's just kind of like back away slowly. I've never encountered it, but this is just what I'm told. So, but yeah, like my parents, they still go camping, and they had a moment, and my mom was really freaked out. So they were camping up north, I think near a place called Pancake Bay, I believe, maybe a little bit further north than that. So if you're looking at a map of the Great Lakes, they were kind of in the little corner spot. And so my mom had left out a tomato apparently on the picnic table, and everything else, like it's drilled into us from a very young age, like everything goes in either a bear barrel or up in the tree, or everything gets locked in the car if you're car camping, to avoid these situations. And also plus chipmunks will just rip apart bags to get into things, and raccoons are very intelligent creatures that can get into Tupperware. So there's that. But bears, definitely, they can smell food from very far away. So they were in a very busy campsite, and apparently a bear came into their campsite and was like stalking around near their tent, and like took a couple of swipes at the cooler that was in the truck, and then apparently ate the tomato and then moved on to the next campsite. My mom said that she could hear other people like banging pots and pans to essentially like scare it away. Yeah, bears are definitely something that you need to understand and be aware of. But anytime, if you're coming to Ontario and you go to a provincial park, you can totally engage with the staff at the parks, and they can definitely give you the right and proper education so that you know what you're dealing with. And a lot of the times, if there have been bears sighted in the area, they'll definitely let you know. It's pretty, and then in wintertime, you don't have to worry about it. They're sleeping.
And then as you
and
get
wolves, in all honesty, wolves I've never, there's the only wolves that I actually know about are in an area called Halliburton, and they're in a reserve, like they're protected. So I have no information on wolves in the wild, to be honest.
No, I did experience some wolf tracks, and had people had seen wolves in and around Tofino in British Columbia when I was there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Like and out west, it is a bit more quote unquote wild. So like population is quite condensed here in Ontario and in Montreal, in Quebec. So you have to go quite far north to start seeing a lot of bears and things like that. But also the other thing that I would caution people against in Ontario specifically, especially if they're driving, is deer and moose. Deer can really F up your car, and a moose can kill you if you hit it with your car. So moose are very tall, so what happens is you kind of drive out their legs, and then it lands on the cab of the car, crushing you. So, and I don't think that would be very pleasant, so be careful.
People don't realize how big a moose is until they actually need to go and see one, because they're ginormous.
it's unreal. Like I could literally walk underneath one and not touch it probably. And I'm like 5'6". So yeah, there's that.
That's so it's
but
bigger,
yeah,
it's
like those
bigger than a
are the
horse.
biggest issues. Yeah, much bigger than a horse. Much bigger than a horse. It's yeah, and they can be quite aggressive if they feel threatened. They're very solitary animals, so if they feel crowded, and it happens a lot here, like that's something that tourists can definitely be so dumb. You can't, there's been so many pictures of people like getting out of their cars, like not even 50 feet from a moose or a bear even. I can't. Like, stay in your car. You can still get the picture from your car. Like, what are you doing? Because if they feel threatened, they will like charge you, and that's, nobody needs that.
We had in South Africa here, we had tourists get out of their car at a lion sighting in the Kruger National Park.
Okay, that seems even dumber.
That's just
like next level stupid.
That's
like Darwin theory at work. That's what that is. Most people should not be allowed to procreate. That's my stance. Anyways, I don't know what to tell you.
No, I'm with you. And they got very, very upset when the rangers in the park fined them.
We're upset with them?
They were upset with them and fined them. Fined them about $3,000 per head. They got fined.
You know what? You're lucky you didn't die, all right? So there's that.
What a lot of people don't realize, and I don't know what the deal is in Canada, but in South Africa here, if that lion was to attack one of those people, not one would attack, many would attack at the same time.
Yeah.
And because that's how lions work. And then the park then has to euthanize and kill those lions because they've attacked a human being. So actually, it's a much bigger deal than a human being being attacked. It's actually a pride of lion being killed at the same time due to human stupidity.
That's awful. Yeah. And that's one of the things. And that's something too, like when we talk about things on our blog and stuff like that, like I said before, education is so important. And like, people need to respect the outdoors and not have any entitlement to it. Like, yes, it is there. Yes, you are welcome to enjoy it, but please do not forget where you are. It is not your home. It's somebody else's home. You're visiting.
And that's simple stuff. I won't even go as far as leave no trace. It's simple stuff like just take your trash home with you.
Yeah, please, just like, you want to have a beer at the top of the mountain? I don't care. Just take the can with you. Like,
that's it.
Like, good for you. Like that. I'm a fan of that. I know you're not supposed to, but it happens.
Yeah. That's it. It was quite. We paddled the Noir River the other year in canoes, and we started very, very, very high up. And as we got closer to civilization, I got quite distressed about that. I was picking up trash the whole way down. You could see where different trailheads came to the river, where mostly I think fishermen had just been dumping their beer cans and anything else on the side of the river, and it was such a shame to ruin an environment like that.
I will say that, like, I'm quite proud of Canada. I find, like, I have hiked in other countries, and I've been to places like Bali and things like that, and I'm not like shading any other country at all. This is more just praise for Canada, that I think that we do a really good job of taking that care most of the time. Like, there is not a lot of trash that I find on the trails. Like, it is rare that I do that. And I follow this guy on Instagram, and he started this thing called #AdventureBag. And it's essentially like I think he's in Southeast Asia at the moment. I can't remember. But when he goes on hikes and stuff, he'll like take a plastic bag with him, and he'll fill it with garbage every time he goes out. And I really enjoy that idea as well. But like, for me, it's just like, when we're on the trail, if there's a piece of garbage, I'm taking it with me. And like, it's, like I said, it's so rare, especially in Ontario parks. They're really well groomed. Same with most of the national parks and things like that. And I think that we have a really good outdoor community here in Canada. Like, people are not assholes, but you do get some that, and I am happy to let those people know that they forgot something.
So what are
Oh,
the
excuse
lists?
me, sir.
Yeah.
I've actually done that before. Like, sorry, I think you left something. Did you forget this? Try to be nice
A bit of
in a
gentle
super passive
embarrassment.
aggressive way. Yeah, exactly. Canadians are really good at super passive aggressive ways of shaming their brethren.
Well, that's good. And you haven't apologised or said sorry for anything yet, which is a few of my Canadian friends say sorry in every third sentence. So I was quite surprised.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that we work on here. We try not to, because then I feel like if you say it too much, it can come off as disingenuous to people that don't live here and don't understand that it is like, it's actually so much ingrained in our culture here that it's actually in our law system too, that if you say sorry, that is not an admission of guilt here. Random fact for you. You're welcome.
Whereas in the states, in your southern cousin country, if you say sorry in the states, that's it. You're guilty in a court of law.
Yeah, essentially, it can be an option of a way to prove that you were guilty, I guess. So here, not so much. It's more like, oh, it's like using a period here. I don't know. I say a probably a lot more than I say sorry, though.
I forgot the great Canadian A. So people who are listening to this may want to come to Ontario and get out. What go wandering? What sort of recommendations do you have for them about getting out and about in Ontario?
Well, I think it depends on when you decide to come. If you brave and come in the winter time, I will tell you, it gets very cold here. We went away, actually, I just posted a recent new blog about a trip to a place called Silent Lake. It's about 2 hours from Toronto. Beautiful little provincial park, and it has 40 kilometers of cross-country skiing, like groomed trails, and 8 kilometers of snowshoeing trails. And the day that we got there, that night it went down to like minus 22 without the wind chill. So it was pretty chilly. But the way that things look in the wintertime is just so much different. But if I was going to recommend another time of year to come, I would say in the fall is so beautiful. The leaves change, and there are actually websites that track when the leaves are changing and when they're at their peak colors. A lot of people would say Algonquin Park is probably one of the best. It is, but it is very popular. So in the fall, the lineups can be huge. For me, it's like if you go a little bit further north, you get away from the crowds, and especially in September when the kids have all gone back to school. Usually the northern, so around Lake Superior, so Pancake Bay, Lake Superior Provincial Park, Rainbow and Naze, those are all really beautiful parks, and they're way less busy in that time of year. And actually, if you do enjoy wildlife, there is one place in at Lake Superior called Rabbit Blanket Park, and it's named that for a reason. There's literally rabbits everywhere. So and they are not shy about anything. They come right up and they're like, how's it going? So there's that. Yeah, there are a lot of beautiful places to explore. And like I said, I am from Niagara Falls, and I'm sure everybody that comes here will want to see it. But I will warn you, it is in the middle of a city. So between two countries, actually. So it's not exactly the outdoors adventure that you'd be looking for when it comes to a waterfall. There's a casino, like essentially like half a block away. It's definitely, if you're an outdoors person and not into gambling, it's a one-day trip at best. There are some trails nearby that take you down along the river, which can be quite nice in Niagara Falls. But yeah, people are more than free to reach out to us on our Instagram, and I'm happy to answer any questions. If people are planning on coming here, I'm happy to give any recommendations.
Cool. That is very generous and kind. I just hope your inbox doesn't get completely and utterly full of people like, hey, I want to come to Ontario.
No, that's great. Like I love letting people know what to come and see here because I love it here, and same with BC. Like we've spent a lot of time there, so if people are looking to go out that way, feel free. And we do have some relationships with other people, other bloggers in other areas of the country too that would be happy to help out too. So if people have questions, there's plenty of us around to help out.
Cool. All right, as we come to the end of our time together, I told you this at the start, not that anybody else knows this, but it's an opportunity now for you to have a 60-second or more rant about something in the outdoors or something that's bothering you. Chance to get something off your chest.
It's bothering me. What's bothering you today?
That's it. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, so I thought about this, and actually when you mentioned it, I was like, oh, I know exactly what I want to talk about. And I don't want it to be that I'm throwing any shade, and I don't want it to discourage anybody from spending time in the outdoors, because that is never the case. But I will say something. Influencers in the outdoors.
Oh.
They are something. Now, I want to preface this also by saying there are some really awesome ones, like people that are out there, like actually that are outdoors influencers that are out there doing the hikes and doing these things and blah, 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 all of that stuff. And those people, I probably follow them. The people that are, what I like to say as potentially faux outdoor influencers, these are the people that take the shortcuts to the peaks, quick ways to the top, and don't actually do the hikes sometimes, but end up in their hiking outfits at the top of whatever mountain or whatever lookout. I've experienced this a couple times, especially here in Ontario with some of the hikes. So some of the hikes in the provincial parks here, I will say, they kind of try and control the traffic to go one way on a loop, especially in the busy season during the changing of the colors. So there's one particular one in Algonquin Park. It's called Centennial Ridge. It can get very busy, but it is a phenomenal trail. But it's 15 kilometers long. So it's a really intense hike if you're going to do the whole thing. Now, there is a shorter version if you go up the back way. So the way that everybody's coming down, if you go up that way, it's about a 2-kilometer hike to the lookout. So I witnessed multiple people doing that when we were doing it this past season. And look, I get it. Some people, time is tight, but like there was a girl in like a full-on, like full-length dress going up that way. I'm not one to judge what you're wearing on the trail, but it was kind of muddy. Like I don't know if that's the best option. It's just kind of, if I'm going to be following somebody in the outdoors, I want it to be an authentic relationship with those people. Like I follow people too to get that understanding of different places. Like I follow a bunch of people in Europe that do hiking, and I follow a bunch of people in Southeast Asia that go hiking. And I would like to see authentic people doing those things. I love those photos of girls that like find a way to change behind a tree somewhere after they've done their hike and still take a beautiful photo. Knock yourself out. That's amazing. I would do that too. I'm just too lazy. You're going to get a picture of me in my mech gear. Sorry. But those people I totally respect. Like a friend of mine, she's an influencer, but for like travel and beauty. And she actually asked me the other day, she's like, will you take me out hiking? And I was like, sure. She's like, do you mind if I take a change of clothes so that we can take pictures somewhere? And I was like, of course. And I'm like, but I'm taking you hiking. Like, I'm not taking you the easy route to get somewhere to take a photo. Like, that's not what we're doing. She's like, no. She's like, I want to come and I want to spend the time and I want to do it proper. And I was like, sure. And so that's amazing. Like, and that's goes back to what I was saying earlier about like, especially women, like I'm not shaming anybody that shows up on the trail with makeup on. If that's what you want to do to make yourself feel great, like I support you 100%. But don't fake your experience. That's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see somebody faking their way to the top of a mountain, because for me to get to that top of that mountain is like a big deal. I felt really, when we did that hike in Bowen Island, like, oh, we got lost so much. And then we finally got to where we were supposed to be for the top after thinking we were at the top twice before. I was so excited. I'm like, I'm so proud of us. We did it. We made it. And I'm starving. But like, it was an authentic, but the experience was authentic. Like, and I want to know, like, now that I've done that entire hike, I can give people useful information about that hike. Like, it's not well marked. The trail on the way down, very gravelly, very hard to get down. Be careful. Like, all of that information is important. So I can't have somebody going and doing maybe the similar hike, finding the easy way up, and like then trying to give people incorrect information as well. Like, it's just a really frustrating thing to see sometimes. And so that's what I would like. And I think that will distract people from going into the outdoors. They'll follow one of these people, think it's going to be all rainbows and sunshine, which we all know hiking sometimes is not. And in all honesty, sometimes when it's not rainbows and sunshine, that's the funniest thing that you deal with. Like, whatever, it is what it is. Those are the things that make for better stories and better experiences. I just don't, I can't with that. No. I want realness, authenticity. That's what I'm looking for.
Authenticity, real. So influencers out there, if you're going to do it, go and do it properly, or don't do it at all.
Right. Go take a walk down the boardwalk. That's fine. I'll still look at your photo. I'm not going to lie. You probably look fantastic, but don't be putting misinformation out there. It's not okay.
I have problems with influencers a little bit as well. When somebody's wearing clothing in an environment where I'm like, that makes no sense at all for you to be dressed like that just there.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny to me. Like, but like, in all honesty, like the more I've spent time with, like, because I have met other influencers, especially living in Toronto, there's quite a few of them here. And the more that I spend time with them, the more I understand kind of what they go through and what they make happen and stuff like that. So like, when I do see photos like of that girl that looks very ethereal next to a waterfall, like, and then I kind of I'll go and look at their blog and be like, okay, like, interesting. And then I'll look up that particular place where they were, and I'll look up other blogs and see if the information like jives together. Because I'm curious, did this person actually do this hike, or did they, like, I don't know, have someone carry them on their back? I don't know. And then like some of them are pretty authentic. Like, they'll change behind a tree. Well, there's a bunch of people around, whatever, they don't care. They're just like, I see this vision in my head and I want to make this art. And I totally respect that. I don't want people being, pretending like that's like their backyard and this is what it looks like. And I hike in a ball gown all the time, like, if you want to do that, that's cool. And if you're making that beautiful photo and whatnot, I support you, but just be real about it. That's all.
Cool, thank you. Jenn, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you and Wes for We Wander the Wild, and for inspiring people to get out there and go and explore Ontario, but also Canada and wherever it is that's close to them. Because I think far more people have far more cool things about them than they ever realize if they just go and open their eyes and explore a little bit. So thank you for that. If people want to get in touch with you, where can they get in touch with you? Where's best?
They can they can either go to like We Wander and just DM us directly. That's totally fine. Or they can go onto our website, and there's like the contact information there too.
Awesome, cool. So I encourage any of you who are going to go to Ontario, go and well, I hope I haven't said the wrong thing, but get in touch with Jenn and Wes and go and have some cool adventures. Jenn, thank you very much for your time today.
No problem. Thank you.
Cool.
This episode is brought to you by the We Get Outdoors tribe, where your next adventure is just one click away. You can join this, the fastest growing outdoor group on planet Earth, and become part of a tribe of like-minded outdoor enthusiasts, sharing your adventures, their adventures, trips and insights, and helping to ensure you plan and have the most perfect adventures. Click on the link in the description below to join for free right now.